Welcome back to the Untouchaballs podcast. Caden and Leo here. Caden, happy 100th episode. How are you doing today?
Doing great, Max. Yeah. A little over, 4 years in now, and this is episode 100 of the Untouchaballs podcast.
Episode 100, Caden. We started this podcast during the pandemic.
Long live Choff.
Long live Choff. You know, we did used to have a third member, good old Choff. He is no longer with us in the podcasting world.
And he left us in the Colorado world as well.
Colorado world. Is Choff even real?
Who knows?
Who knows? But that being said, Caden, a few years later, we were sophomores in high school when we started this. Do you want to say anything or have anything to reflect on in the past few years?
It's kind of crazy how, it was during COVID, during the pandemic. We're just, doing like every person does, just talk about sports with their boys.
Yeah.
And we're like, you know what? Let's try a podcast. Grinded it out during then, and then it kind of faltered off. Then we kind of picked it up again, and it kind of faltered off. And then we were starting to do it back with, at school last year.
Cool.
Then baseball started out for me. It was just kind of getting a little too much. So then this fall, we're like, we need to do this. We're going to stick to it. And now, I'm glad that we've actually stuck to it and been going through this whole season like this.
Me too. It's been the first actual football season we've actually really been able to talk to, really, if you think about it. Because
that's very true.
I was playing football the other times. But 100 episodes is exciting. It's great. Not only that, the Denver Broncos are in the playoffs for the first time since I was 11 years old. Caden Caravan.
You want to start with that game then?
Let's start with that game right at the gate. Chiefs were playing their backups. Yep. Obviously, we discussed that. 9.5 point spread. Caden.
10.5 point spread.
Is that what we closed on? I'm pretty sure it was 9.5 when we talked on the episode.
It was 10.5 when we talked on the episode.
Either way.
It was 11.5 though yesterday before kickoff.
Either way, as I predicted, Broncos came in, took care of business. Yep. Not only that, goose egg on the board.
Yep. Only the second shutout of the entire NFL season.
Correct. Regardless of those backups, very impressive day from Bo Nix. Sets the Broncos franchise record for passing completion percentage in a game in the regular season, beating Peyton Manning from 2013. Elite company. He was phenomenal. It was just an overall good momentum builder going into the playoffs.
Yeah, and a great way for Bo Nix to finish his rookie season. He finished now. He's second all-time in rookie passing touchdowns.
Correct.
At 29, only behind Herbert. And he's third all-time in total touchdowns after this 4-tutty game against the Chiefs. Only behind, I think it was Cam Newton and one other quarterback ahead of Cam Newton by one touchdown. But he slid just ahead of Jaden Daniels in total touchdowns with this game. So, it was a great performance by the Broncos, offensively, defensively. Nick Benito had a great day.
Yes, he did.
Getting to the quarterback. And, it's a great momentum builder to go into the playoffs with.
Not only that, Cortland Sutton did hit his
bonus,
he did. 1,000 yards on the season and $500,000 going home with him.
Yeah, and they made sure they got it. You heard the announcer they were talking about Sean Payton before. He's like, we're going to try to give him a deep ball early, try to take a chunk out of those yards nice and quick.
Definitely.
Now, our other games that we talked about, we'll go back to Saturday's games now, where the first game was that the Ravens-Browns game.
Yes.
Where it was a huge spread. It was a college spread of 20.5. But the Ravens found a way to cover that, winning 35-10.
They did, Kane, and you hit the nail right on the head. I thought the Browns would have a little bit of life at the end. Myles Garrett talked about trying to spoil.
Yep.
And they kind of hung in there, Caden.
A little bit at the start.
A little bit. But, man, that Lamar Jackson
and that Derrick Henry.
That offense is scary, Caden. And they're going to have the Pittsburgh Steelers next week. It's going to be a scary, scary time for Russell Wilson. That's all I'm going to say. And I think Lamar Jackson is the MVP now.
I would agree. I think, especially with this performance to clinch the division,
yes,
Lamar Jackson did outplay Josh Allen this season. And, he should be taking home his third MVP, I believe.
I think so.
Yeah, Derrick Henry, though, also in that game, 138 rushing yards, 2 rushing tutties. He's now the first player in NFL history with over 1,500-plus rushing touchdowns and 15-plus rushing touchdowns in 3 seasons.
Ridiculous, Caden. Absolutely ridiculous. Future Hall of Famer, Derrick
Easily.
Henry. If it wasn't for Saquon Barkley, his 2,000-yard season, he'd probably be taking home Offensive Player of the Year. Just goes to show you how phenomenal the NFL has been this year offensively. But Lamar Jackson is statistically one of the best quarterback seasons we've ever seen. Taking care of the football.
Especially.
It's been phenomenal to watch. And I'm excited for the playoffs.
Now, another game where if the Bengals would have been better, Joe Burrow would have been right in this conversation. And we ended up actually pushing in this game. The spread was 2. And because of a punt going off one of the blockers' toes, we push. Bengals win this game 19-17.
We do push. I mean, this was an ugly one.
Mm.
I mean, for the Bengals who were trying to make the playoffs at the time, still had hope. That was an ugly performance. And I think that just goes to show you, it summarizes their season, that this team did not belong in the playoffs. Regardless of the hate that the Broncos got and all the Bengals fans who didn't think the Broncos deserved it. And somehow, just because he's Joe Burrow, and they're going to put up a better fight, even though the defense can't cover up, the sun with an umbrella, that they deserved it over the Broncos. Couldn't get to 10 wins and barely walked their way, into getting that 9th. I was disappointed with the Bengals ultimately, but they did get the win.
Yeah, I was also – their offense just wasn't really able to move the ball much. Only one tutty out of Burrow, and that's the opening drive. This game started off so great for them.
Yeah.
Walked right down the field, found Jamar Chase for that tutty. And then they really couldn't do much after that. It seemed like missing Chase Brown was big for this offense because they had to try to rely on Khalil Herbert in the backfield, who he's not an awful backup in the NFL, but he's nothing special. We saw it when his time in Chicago. He's not that good of a running back, and when you need him to take the load for you guys when you're used to what Chase Brown's been doing all season, it's tough, and it seemed like hindered their offense.
Yeah, not only that, a bad day for George Pickens and a bad day for Russell Wilson. Yep. Those two, again, not being able to be on the same page. And once again, turmoil in the Steel City, going into the playoffs, smelling like a first-round exit, kid.
I'm going to say what I said in our group chat. It seems like once Mike Tomlin gets his winning season, they just stop trying.
Something like that, Caden. I don't know how else to describe it.
Yeah, as long as his streak stays alive after that, they don't care. They kept his streak alive.
Correct.
Getting to our Sunday more matchups now. Our Sunday morning, we had the Bucs. They were playing at the same time as the Falcons. The Bucs needed to win this game, and they were going to win the division. The Falcons needed them to lose, and they needed to win. Falcons ended up losing in overtime to the Panthers of all teams. But the Bucs were down 16-6 at halftime in this game to the Saints, end up winning 27-19, but not even close to getting our cover.
Didn't get the cover, which this is the Saints team I thought would happen last time they played the divisional opponent and had the big – I was like, hey, they're still going to be able to keep it close. That's what I envisioned, that game right there. But no, Baker Mayfield, he heard that I had, spread so high, and they decided they were going to wait till the very end of the game before they got going. But credit to them, they found a way to win. And that's what this Buccaneers team has done this year. They just found ugly ways to win. They've had some dominant wins, but at the end of the day, they're going to be an interesting team getting to host a playoff game next weekend.
Yeah, they let Spencer Rattler throw for 240, 1 tutty, no turnovers. Not a great defensive performance. I think good him 19 to this lowly Saints offense who's missing Kamara and Chris Olave.
Correct.
But then, Baker didn't play that great of a game. Before, I do want to mention the Mike Evans stuff. Before that, I want to talk about, so before, you saw that obviously that dime to Jalen McMillan. On the play before, did you see that penalty that somehow got called?
Phantom penalty, kid?
No.
Which one?
The excessive celebration. Jalen McMillan on the 4th and 8 catches the 20-yard.
No.
So you know how a lot of players will do this when they get a first down? So he did it like this.
He gunned.
And they throw a penalty.
You can't finger gun.
That is the stupidest thing in the world.
The NFL has been on that this entire season. They do not want any gun images. They don't want any thoughts of a gun. Just do it normally.
That's stupid.
It's not stupid. That's been the rule. It's stupid of him to not know the rule, and we're in week 18 in the NFL.
It's stupid to get a flag for that.
Every single person in the NFL has been called for doing that this season.
I haven't seen it once this season.
What?
Yeah.
You have not been watching because
I've been watching a lot of football.
Anyone who does finger gun, pointing gun.
He didn't shoot or anything. He just first down.
Even putting up gun, anything that looks like a gun, they're throwing it.
That's awful. The NFL, that's stupid.
I'm not saying it's a good call. I'm just saying
that's what
it's the rule, and that's why I got called.
But yeah, getting back to the Mike Evans stuff, they get the ball back with 30 seconds left. Just take the knee, win the game. But Mike Evans still needs that 5 more yards. So they line up in the shotgun, actually take a timeout to make sure they have the right play. Mike Evans from the slot runs a little out route, gets the 8-yard catch. Now 11 consecutive seasons of over 1,000 yards, tying Jared Rice for the most consecutive all time.
Ty and Jerry Rice, absolute elite company. Again, we talked about Hall of Famers earlier. Mike Evans, future first ballot Hall of Famer. Absolutely dominant since he's come into the league, just consistently with bad quarterbacks too. Let's not forget that. And he was able to win the Super Bowl with Tom Brady, was Tom Brady's number one receiver. It was, it's been a great career for Mike Evans, and I don't think he's done yet. But I do think that was really awesome the way the Buccaneers were able to find him and get him that 1,000 yards.
And yeah, also though, for him to be able to get that 1,000 yards with missing the 3 games with his hamstring injury, basically like 3.5 games.
Yes.
Like that's just goes to show how amazing the season really could have been.
Oh yeah.
If he doesn't get hurt, he's probably closer to 1,300 yards around
Correct.
there. With just easily, he's one of these top receivers in the NFL for a reason.
Most definitely, and he's gonna be a reason why Baker and the Bucs are gonna be dangerous. And that running game with Bucky and Rachaad White next week, it's gonna be exciting.
So now we got the Patriots, who no claps. All they have to do is lose the game, and you get the number 1 overall pick. That's all you have to do. So instead, you know what happens? Joe Milton goes 22 of 29, 241, 1 tutty, had 1 on the ground. They just played good offense. Obviously you're playing Mitchell Trubisky the whole game against him, but they did fine stopping him. Just all around bad. And because of this, what did we say last week? If they somehow win this game, Gerard Mayo should be fired. And what happens about an hour after the game? The reports come out, Gerard Mayo, he is gone.
Correct. Not only that, though, Caden, Milton had a very, very good game, and that's, a positive going forward.
Is.
You got that as your backup, him and May. You got 2 guys you can develop in, not saying he's better than May, but you go in the offseason, you never know what happens. Having 2 options is just nice to know if you're the Patriots moving forward.
Yeah, that is very true, which is, it was good to see him perform. He played really well. He made some really nice throws.
Yes.
And just, now we have the 4th overall pick.
Now you're going to get your tackle
We're going to get
a package.
Without being able to trade back for some picks. We'll get Kelvin Banks at 4 probably, and that's it. But speaking of, obviously, the Gerard Mayo firing, they formally requested to interview Ben Johnson today, so if he ever decides to leave the Lions, maybe we can lure him in. Also, though, it seems like Mike Vrabel is being heavily considered by them to come in and coach, which I wouldn't be opposed to at all. Mike Vrabel is a good coach.
The problem is a lot of teams are trying to get Mike Vrabel in. I think a lot of teams realize he is the best potential coach candidate on the market outside of some of these other coordinators, Ben Johnson being one of them.
Being the biggest one, probably.
Now the Tennessee Titans can hold that number 1 pick.
Yep.
And we saw all the bags of Shedeur Sanders on the Titans fans' faces. You think potentially Shedeur Sanders ends up a Titan?
Well, they do need a quarterback. Mason Rudolph to Will Levis.
Their GM just came out and said that is a position they're going to get better in this offseason.
So, the Titans, I could easily see them taking a quarterback in this draft. Or Cam Ward, which would come draft time, you'll hear a lot more about this.
We're going to talk about it later.
But I don't have any quarterbacks really graded as a first-round talent in this year's draft. Shedeur is the closest, but even I don't think he high second round, mid-second round pick.
I'll take.
He's better than Cam Ward, though. I'm going to give him that.
Correct.
He's the best quarterback in this draft class, but that's not saying a lot with this draft class.
Keep hating, Caden. It's all right.
Now, though, our night game, which surprisingly was not this big old slugfest close game that everyone expected. 31-9 Lions victory.
This was an absolute defensive masterclass by the Detroit Lions. I was getting on them before. I said that they've been shaky.
Both were.
They've been, misperforming, but they answered the call. They shut me up, Caden. I will credit them. And Alex Anzalone with an absolutely lethal game, strapping up T.J. Hawkinson, and he was a big reason why the Lions were so successful. He got a game ball after the game. Very impressive defensive performance. Absolutely shut down Justin Jefferson as well. Just a very, very sound game, and Jahmyr Gibbs also going ballistic definitely helped.
Yeah, speaking of the Lions defense, Justin Jefferson, 3 catches, 54 yards. Jordan Addison, 1 catch for 0 yards. Darnold only had 166 passing yards. His over-under prop was 294.5. He doesn't even come close to sniffing that.
Yeah.
And like you said about Jahmyr Gibbs, basically a career game for him here.
Yeah.
Just 139 rushing yards, 3 rushing tutties. And then in the air, he also decided to add 5 catches, 31 yards, and another tutty. He had all 4 of their tutties in this game.
Correct.
Just all around, great performance by the Lions. They now get the 1 seed. And the Vikings at 14-3 now have to travel for a playoff game, which is kind of crazy to think about.
It is ridiculous to think about, Caden. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if potentially because of that this offseason we see some potential rule changes on that. And, even like the NFL's had murmurings about potentially playing with having, all division winners still making the playoffs, but not necessarily getting to host that home game. We're going to see what happens.
Yeah, I heard an argument on VSiN because they were talking about this. And they're like, maybe the NFL just needs to go to like NBA the way it was.
Oh, yeah.
Just get like no divisions. You just have your 2 conferences, and that'll determine your seeding. So it doesn't matter if you win your division. It's just the 7 best records. Those will be in the playoffs.
Interesting. We can talk about that a little more in the offseason.
Now, though, huge weekend in college football. Which we're talking about this now because the games are Thursday, Friday.
Yes,
so
they are.
On Friday's episode, we'll just be all talk about NFL wildcard weekend.
Correct.
So, starting off, though, on that Thursday night, Notre Dame at Penn State, or in the Orange Bowl, where Notre Dame is a 2.5-point favorite.
Yeah, Caden. This Notre Dame team, they showed up last week, and they've answered the call. We talked about them riding with Marcus Freeman. But we've also been down talking this Penn State team, too, as well. And they just know how to run the football, Caden. I'm kind of torn. Both 2 teams that I haven't been too high on. I definitely think this is the easier side of the bracket.
Easily the easier side of the bracket.
But that being said, I'm going to trust Penn State's run game. And even though they still got $2, I think they find a way to win, and they're going to go to the national championship.
Yeah, Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton are an elite running back duo, probably the best running back duo we have. Actually, they're up there with Ohio State and Quinshon Judkins and them. Those 2 are the 2 best probably running back duos in the country.
Then those are 2 disgusting.
Just 2 insane. So, they're really going to lean on there, try to break through this Notre Dame defense, which has shown that they're really good. But also Penn State's defense is one of the best in the country. They have insane pass rush. They're able to get to the quarterback. So, it's going to come down to how can Marcus Freeman, this offense, scheme it so Riley Leonard's able to move out of the pocket, get out of the pressure, find ways to even Jeremiah Love. Hopefully, he's been able to play pretty healthy in this game because he wasn't able to play too much in the quarterfinal game. As long as he's fine and you can find ways to get Riley Leonard to roll out, get out of the pocket, try to avoid that pressure, it should be a good success for Notre Dame. Because like you said before, is when Notre Dame gets a lead, it's really hard to have them relinquish it.
It is, because they're so sound, Caden. They know how to attack your weaknesses. They know how to play the run, and they've played so many different offenses this year. They've seen it all. They know how to adjust to it all. So if you're going to be Penn State, you want to get up ahead. You want to drain that defense and slowly chip at them with the run game. Either way, this game is going to be really close, and I think the line reflects that.
Yeah. So, I am, though. I will be going with Notre Dame into this, which is crazy to say that I'm picking Notre Dame to go to the national championship. But also be crazy to say that Penn State's going to the national championship.
Either way, it's going to be crazy.
Yeah. Also, though, with this game, though, with that over-under at 45.5, I think I'll probably be taking the under on that, too.
It's going to be close, Ken. I think that's probably right where it's going to be in that 40s range if I had to guess. But I would also take the under as well.
I think something nice that you could do with this game is take the 6 points, tease the Notre Dame down. So they'd be plus 2.5, 3.5. So they'd be plus 3.5 in this game. And then you tease the under to up to 51.5. So you get Notre Dame plus 3.5, under 51.5. I think that's a beautiful tease that you can play in this game.
Look for that play and maybe punch it in before the game.
Now, though, on Friday, we have the Cotton Bowl between Ohio State and my Texas Longhorns, where the Buckeyes are a 6-point favorite.
Caden, this Buckeyes team, I told you, was absolutely awakened by that loss from Michigan. And I've said it last week. Texas is going to Texas. They're going to find a way to choke. They're going to find a way to lose this game. And Ohio State is not ASU, Caden. No. If you start playing like that in the fourth quarter against this Ohio State team, they're going to run it down your throat, and it's going to be an ugly finish. That being said, with the 5.5, I think they're kind of thinking this game goes to OT, and there's going to be a 6-point difference. That's just my thoughts, Caden. That's my feel of it. But I'm riding with Ohio State to get it done, and they're going to be in the national championship this year.
Yeah, this is should be a really good game, a really interesting matchup. Speaking of like we were just talking about the over-unders, over-under of 53.5. I'm probably going to take the over on this.
I would too.
I think this will be a high-scoring affair as we've seen Texas defense, like we said, kind of falter in a little bit in these playoffs. Like they played that great first half against Clemson. Then in the second half, they let them kind of come back. Same thing against Arizona State. Great defensively for about the first 3 quarters. And then you start letting them just score basically at ease in that fourth.
Right.
So you're going to need to be able to find a way to slow down this elite Ohio State offense, whether it be in the run game or in the pass game to Jeremiah Smith, Emeka Ibuka. They just have all sorts of weapons lining up this offense. And Will Howard is a good college quarterback. He's going to be able to find the open man, make the tough throws, and it's going to be a tough task for Texas, even with, like, you have Quinn Ewers. You need him to be able to keep the ball in Texas' hands. You don't need him throwing those stupid interceptions that we've seen at times throughout this season. It's going to come down to, I think, more of the run game in this. Whoever can kind of control the time of possession more, as I do think it'll be a high-scoring affair. If you can slow down one of these teams' offense by just not having to be on the field, it could make this game a lot better. And I think Quintravion Wisener and Jaden Blue have the ability to do that against this Arizona State, that was last week. Ohio State defense that I don't know. This is more of the tough pick for me than how you were saying about the last game, because Ohio State has looked so good after that Michigan loss. I just think it's Texas's year, baby. They're gonna come in here, cover that 6, and they will be playing Notre Dame in the national championship.
Well, Caden, we differ on that once again. It's been an exciting weekend. We got NFL coming up. We will talk to you guys more about that on Friday. Looking forward to these college games. Caden, any final thoughts, comments, questions, or concerns?
Yeah, make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, turn on post notifications so you never miss an upload. Share this with all your friends, families, and everyone like that. And check out our website, theuntouchaballs.wordpress.com.
Most definitely. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you all next time.